Hey everyone, it's Michelle Werl in the studio, and I am playing around with some Dina Wakley products, and I'm going to make a mixed media tag today. Now, this is actually a 4x6 piece of like press board that I've gotten from the craft store. And I have put some gesso on there, but feel free to substitute your favorite tag or substrate instead of these boards if you don't have them handy. And the first thing that you want to do is apply some paint. We want to get rid of that white background, right? So I am just spreading around a nice coat of iris paint and really just, doing it kind of randomly, no rhyme or reason, just trying to cover up as much of the white gesso as I can, getting good coverage on there. And I'm going to actually add in a second color to kind of blend in with the iris. And I'm going to add Sapphire now. And you'll see me again kind of take the brush and spread it around. Don't want to be perfect about it, just sort of random. Again, the goal is just to cover up the background and get some kind of interesting combination going, but we don't really know where it's going just yet. So, in fact, I flipped the one of the boards around just to kind of give it a different perspective, a different while I was working on it. So, next thing you want to do is grab a stencil, and this is Dina's stencil called the Varied, which I love. And what I'm doing here is I'm going to put the stencil down on each of the painted surfaces while they're still wet. And I'm pulling back some of the paint by blotting and wiping with a paper towel. You could also do this like just with a baby wipe. Baby wipe will take more of the paint off if you're doing it that way, but I like that the effect that gives. And then the trick here is that as you're sort of building these layers, you want them to get dried in between. So each time you'll see me sort of hit it with my little craft dryer before I move to the next layer. So that first layer is dry, and now I am adding in some malachite paint, and again spreading it around with the brush randomly. I'm not now this time I'm not trying to, necessarily cover everything. I'm just trying to add another layer of color and of interest. And I'm actually going to do the same thing again with the stencil and take a little bit of the paint off. So I'm just repeating that. You can see that's really created some cool effects there. And then again, I'm going to take my dryer and hit it with that for just a bit and get that nice and dry. And then we're going to introduce another paint and another stencil. This is the Burst Coaster stencil, and I'm applying the color Watery through the stencil. And you'll see me what I'm going to do here is kind of, I'll do two or three applications of Watery with this stencil. So I'm trying to kind of doing this crisscross um, kind of layout just to kind of create an interesting pattern. Like there's no, you don't have to do it exactly like this, but again, just trying to kind of create some interest and still have some of the under layers that we've already worked on show through. So you'll see I kind of move that around a bit. And then I'm going to take my dryer and, and hit it with a craft dryer to get it. It doesn't have to be all the way dry, but you want it most of the way dry. Otherwise, the layers will all blur together. So it's splatter time. I love splatters. So now I've taken um, the colors Carnation and Magenta. Um, Added some water into the paint and to get it a watery consistency that's good for splattering. And you can see I've splattered both of those colors around a good bit. And again, I am going to give it a little bit of heat to help dry it before I add another layer. Now I'm taking that coaster stencil again, and I'm taking the colors Cheddar and Magenta. And what I did here was kind of just come in at a different angle. I started with Cheddar, and then I'm adding Carnation in, I'm sorry, Magenta in, and I'm kind of creating I'm letting it blend, right? So this is one time where I didn't want to hit it with a dryer in between, but I really wanted to get almost kind of like an ombre effect. And then I pull it down to the bottom as well. And again, just kind of creating some interest. I love the way those colors sort of blended together there. Just doesn't have to be perfect. Just have fun with it, get it dry, and then guess what? I'm going to do some more splatters. And this is actually I played around with splattering with the gloss medium instead of a watered down paint, and I actually really liked the way the gloss medium splatters. All right, and then the next thing we're going to do is draw a flower on one of the tags, and you don't have to do this, but the this stamp from the You Matter set, if you turn it over, kind of gives you the perfect guide for the center of your. This is kind of like a cone flower or a sunflower type of flower. So anyway, there's a little hack for you if you need help getting your flower started. You could use the top of the stamp to sort of trace out the center. And then I'm just adding some elongated um, shapes for the petals. Nothing fancy there. And another trick for you there is, you want the petals that are in the middle of the flower or the petals that are closer to you to be larger and sort of longer, and then the petals that are the farther away from you, in this case the petals that are on either side of the center of the flower, are a little bit shorter, and that just kind of helps build somewhat of an accurate perspective. And I did kind of just a quick stem and a leaf on it as well. So now I'm taking paint. This is the color Aloe, and I am just sort of um, tracing around with the paint, tracing around the shape. And this is always my favorite part of a project like this. I love to see how this shape sort of starts to come together when you are, filling in the background with a different color. Love to see that come together. So you'll see I'll just go around all the edges. Now, one thing you'll see, I used a water soluble pencil. I think this was a Stabilo pencil to sketch the flower. And so when I'm adding my paint around the edges, it does kind of pick up the pencil and blend it in, kind of drag it into the paint, which I think is a really lovely effect. It's kind of messy and painterly, but just something to keep in mind, when you sketch the flower, just be aware that when you start to add some paint around it, it might pick up and kind of smudge into the paint. So just something to keep in mind. And now I'm just kind of refining the top of the flower a little bit. Just you want to have fun with it, and kind of um, see. It's a very intuitive process, right? Just kind of see um, what you like, and play around with it, have some fun with it. So I'm just sort of adding in um, a little bit more paint in some of the areas to help define the petals. And then while the first layer of paint's still wet, I'm going to add in a second layer, and this is Carnation, and just applying it around the top half of the flower. Don't necessarily want to cover all of your first layer up. So let some of that aloe show through. And once you get it where you like it, I'm actually going to pick up some cheddar on my paintbrush and mix in some carnation together. So it's kind of um, a little bit of a blend of the two colors. You can see that cheddar looks a little bit light, and that's because it's got some carnation pulled into it. And I think that what the effect that I think is kind of cool here is that the top half of the um, image is going to be the top half is going to be a different color, right, than the bottom. So you've got more of a pink on the top half, and this orangey color, this cheddar, down in the bottom half, and I think that's a really cool technique to try. So I wanted to play around with that a bit, and you can see how the this section of the flower underneath the flower got pretty dark, and that's because the pencil I had sketched the flower with had blended into the paint. And so I'm just applying some extra coverage here to sort of balance that out a little bit. And then you just play around with it until you get it where you like it. I definitely wanted to have that contrast between the top and the bottom. So I just worked it a little bit more until I was happy with it. And once you got it where you are happy with it, I like to add in just a touch of some fun highlights. And I'm using the gloss mediums for this. I used papaya, I used lavender, you can see there. And then I'm going to pull in some malachite for parts of the stem and the leaf, and I'll actually pop a little bit of it into part of the flower as well, just kind of sprinkling around the color, throughout the whole composition. All right, and then what you'll see me do now is I'm actually taking a slightly damp paintbrush and kind of just dragging it through the pencil lines from where I drew the flower. Because I used a water soluble pencil, you can see it's kind of smearing around and giving it sort of a nice painterly effect. If you didn't use a pencil that is giving that kind of effect, you could definitely just pick up some paint in that color and add some water to it and sort of create the same technique that way. And then the last little bit of color that you're seeing me adding here is actually a gloss medium in the color Sunshine. So I'm using that just to add a little bit of brightness at the very end of the painting. And then I'm going to hit it with the craft dryer just to get it a little bit dry. And I'm going to stamp a quote in the bottom corner of the card, and that is from the You Matter stamp set. And then what I did is just I tore a little piece of scrap ribbon, and I'm going to sandwich that in between the two boards, and I'll glue that together for the finished tag. Thanks for watching, and look forward to seeing you next time.